This is Chuck Todd, and I haven't watched him for a long time. But I watched this video. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the most rancid thing I've ever seen. And I'll outline how many errors he makes, just outright falsehoods that he presents to the audience. And it's sad too, because look down here in the comments, we have all these people that are commenting and agreeing. And I'll go over some of these comments and how wrong they are. But these people, I don't know anything about these people, but these are probably just average people, average everyday Americans watching this, and they're not seeing that this is extremely biased. So let's just start the video. I'll respond to him as he goes.
I don't say this lightly, but let's be frank, a national nightmare is upon us. The basic rules of our democracy are under attack from the president.
What's he talking about? He's talking about the Ukraine whistleblower. This person, the supposed whistleblower, came out and said, oh, we caught Trump saying some bad things to Ukraine on a Ukraine phone call. He was promising things. He was colluding, alleging all these things against the president. And then the president says, I didn't do anything like that. And the president releases the phone call. He releases the transcript of the phone call, and it showed nothing. He asked the Ukraine president to investigate Biden. That's what Democrats and the media are pretending to be upset about, and I'll prove that they're being fake in their outrage. But he was saying, please investigate Biden. This was a very sketchy situation, especially since Biden admitted to bribing Ukrainian officials on camera. So this isn't like a conspiracy theory. Biden admitted to it. That's bribing, that's extortion, with $1 billion to help shut down an investigation into the company that his son worked for. Okay, so that's very sketchy. So Trump asked for the Ukrainian president to look into it. So that seems very normal to me. If there's a potential corruption in the part of Ukraine and involving American officials, let's get to the bottom of that corruption. Let's figure it out and get rid of it. So that's what happened. But these reporters, they're still trying to play it up as if it's something. He's saying this is a threat to our democracy. I want to ask him, where were you, Chuck Todd, when Obama asked Ukraine to investigate Trump's campaign manager during the 2016 election? Obama asked Ukraine investigate Paul Manafort because Paul Manafort had some business dealings in Ukraine, and Obama asked Ukraine to investigate it, and Ukraine did. So where were you, Chuck Todd, when Obama did that? I guarantee you didn't care about it. Not only did you not call for impeachment of Obama when he did that, you didn't care about it at all. If anything, you were positive towards it. So I'm going to call balderdash on all this fake outrage. That's just one example. I'm going to give several examples, but let's just keep going. So this is a quote unquote threat to our democracy. When Trump does it, when Obama does it, completely fine. Trump does it, impeachment. Obama does it, nothing. Crickets.
Today, he publicly called on two foreign governments to interfere in the presidential election by investigating his chief 2020 political rival.
No, he called on them to investigate what looks like corruption. Joe Biden's son had no experience in the energy industry. He had a drug problem. He was dishonorably discharged from the military. He doesn't speak Ukrainian. There's no reason Burisma should have hired him for $50,000 a month, but they did. And then Joe Biden bribes the government of Ukraine to stop an investigation into the company that Hunter Biden worked for. If you don't think that's suspicious, then what are you watching? That's not the only one. The one in China where John Kerry's son and Joe Biden's son and Whitey Bulger's nephew went to China, which also Joe Biden was the point man for, the point man of communication with China during the Obama administration. Joe Biden's son, John Kerry's son, and Whitey Bulger's nephew went there and got a contract for $1.5 billion for this investment firm. What's wrong with investigating? I love how the Democrats, they want to find corruption under every corner and under every rock. When it's Trump, they're investigating. They went to 13 different countries. They asked the governments of 13 different countries, the Mueller investigation, to help investigate Trump's supposed collusion with Russia. 13 different countries. They didn't find anything. And that's all well and good. We're just investigating. This isn't we just want to get rid of corruption. That's all. And then when Trump asks China to investigate a very sketchy situation, they say, oh, he's interfering with an election. Well, aren't you interfering with an election when you're trying to investigate Trump for the purpose you want to overturn the results of the last election? You want to find Russia collusion for the purpose of impeaching. That's what you were doing, Chuck Todd. So that is extreme hypocrisy. 13 different countries they went to. Trump asked China, that's not okay, but going to 13 different countries to try to investigate Trump's quote-unquote Russia collusion, that's all well and good. So this is extreme hypocrisy. Chuck Todd didn't say that was a threat to democracy. He didn't say that was interfering with elections. So I just get a sense of how one-sided this guy is. He's so desperate. And this is so great because it's really exposing these supposedly straight journalists for how biased they are. But let's keep going.
What exactly did you hope Zelensky would do about the Bidens after your phone call? Exactly.
Well, I would think that if they were honest about it, they'd start a major investigation into the Bidens. It's a very simple answer. They should investigate the Bidens, because how does a company that's newly formed, and all these companies, if you look at, and by the way, likewise, China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine. So I would say that President Zelensky, if it were me, I would recommend that they start an investigation into the Bidens, because nobody has any doubt that they weren't crooked. That was a crooked deal, 100%.
So what you just heard is a public admission of the allegations at the heart of the House's impeachment inquiry and at the heart of the whistleblower's complaint.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Obama did that. And by the way, Hillary and her campaign also did that. Hillary and the DNC asked Ukraine to dig up dirt on Trump. This is another example. I have several examples I'm going to say throughout this video. But Hillary and her campaign and the DNC, they asked Ukraine to help investigate Trump. And Ukraine agreed. And they did present the Hillary campaign with things. And the purpose was to help Hillary win the election. So Hillary literally colluded with Russia, with Ukraine. This double standard. Obama did it. Hillary did it. The DNC did it. I'm just scratching the surface here. Let's keep going.
That the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is using the power of his office to solicit foreign interference in the 2020 election.
It's not interference. It's investigating crime. I guess Chuck Todd is saying that since Joe Biden is running for president, he's above the law. He has a license to do anything, any kind of a corruption or crime. He's immune from investigation. This is so weird, this standard, and it shows how desperate the Democrats are. And I have to think it's because they know Attorney General Barr and Investigator Durham are getting close. They're investigating the roots of the crooked Russia hoax. They're investigating, how did that start? How did this hoax start? Who started it? Who circulated the phony dossier? Who started all this nonsense? And we found from this transcript that was released, and it really backfired on Democrats. I have a video about CrowdStrike, but Trump mentioned CrowdStrike in the transcripts, and that's the only source that said Russia hacked the DNC servers and got Hillary's emails. That's the only source, because they were given the servers by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And the FBI didn't have access, CIA didn't have access, NSA didn't have access, nobody had access in the US government or intelligence. It was CrowdStrike, Ukrainian company, Ukrainian security company. And they told the DNC it was Russia. And they told our intelligence agencies it was Russia that hacked. But they were found to be lying, because WikiLeaks said it wasn't Russia, and then CrowdStrike got caught lying about another one where they blamed Russia for hacking Ukraine military devices, and then they got caught on that one too, and they had to retract. So there was a phony dossier, and CrowdStrike lied to say it was Russia. Russia didn't hack. It was Seth Rich. That's what WikiLeaks said. Seth Rich gave the emails to WikiLeaks. The dossier was fake. All these allegations were fake, and they spied on Trump based on bad information. And so Attorney General Barr is investigating. How did this happen? How did we let a fake dossier and CrowdStrike to lie and all these other things and innuendos and media pushing the story, Democrats in Congress pushing the story, and John Brennan and James Comey and James Clapper, they all push this in an attempt to frame a sitting president because they wanted to impeach him. Now, this is treason, and they're investigating it. So this is showing me why these Democrats like Chuck Todd are getting so desperate to push this false narrative, to say, oh, look at Trump. He's saying to investigate Biden. And only 3 years ago, Obama was investigating him. Hillary and the DNC were asking Ukraine for help. Only a year ago, 3 Democrat senators were asking Ukraine to investigate Trump. Robert Menendez and Dick Durbin and Patrick Leahy, they were all questioning Ukraine in regards to Paul Manafort and in regards to Trump and the Russia collusion hoax. They were all questioning the government of Ukraine. It's okay when Democrats do it, but not when Republicans do it. See, this is the double standard. When you don't care, when you present a principle and you only care about it when one side violates the principle, but when the other side violates the principle, like Obama did, like Hillary did, like the DNC did, like these 3 senators did, you don't care about it. Not even a little. Then I say you don't really care about the principle at all. You care about the partisanship. You care about rooting for your team. And you're pretending to care about this principle that you're presenting. So let's keep going.
While doing it, relying on a debunked conspiracy theory or two.
Debunked conspiracy. He's just piling lie on top of lie. He's saying that it's debunked that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden did anything nefarious in Ukraine. How is it debunked when Joe Biden admitted it on camera? He said, I'm not going to give you the $1 billion loan, Ukraine, that you're looking for unless you fire this prosecutor. This prosecutor that was looking into corruption at Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden was working for. And 6 hours later, they fired that prosecutor. And Joe Biden bragged about it on camera, out of his own mouth. When you get the prosecutor, that's how you debunk something? You bully somebody into firing the person looking into the corruption? That doesn't debunk it when you bully somebody to remove the prosecutor. That's like somebody bullying the prosecutors that were prosecuting OJ and then that prosecutor quitting and the investigation ending and saying, oh yeah, OJ killing somebody is debunked now. That got it debunked. No, you intimidated the prosecutor. That doesn't debunk anything. How does he have the nerve to say that? Let's keep going.
The backdrop to all of this, of course, as it relates to China specifically, Chuck, of course, is that the Chinese are in the middle of this trade war with President Trump. And just in advance of those comments, remember, he brought up China unprompted, as you showed in the clip at the top of the broadcast.
Is he connecting the two, Peter? I mean, I got the impression he was essentially saying, if you want a better deal from me on trade, you better help investigate Joe Biden. He seemed to imply a quid pro quo.
What? That is such nonsense. He did not imply a quid pro quo. He has to say imply because Trump definitely didn't say that. So he has to say Trump implied a quid pro quo. He didn't even imply a quid pro quo. He was asked about trade with China and the trade talks that are going on with China. And then after that, he was asked about the whistleblower. And he was asked about China and Hunter Biden and all that stuff. It was 2 totally separate questions. They weren't linked in any way. And I'll show the clip here.
Do you want to restrict investment flows into China and have Chinese stocks be listed?
Well, we're looking at a lot of different things. Chinese coming in next week. We're going to have a meeting with them. We'll see. But we're doing very well. Some of the numbers, I think, are being affected by all of the nonsense, all of the politics going on in this country by the Democrats. I call them the do-nothings. They do nothing for this country. They don't care about this country. But the numbers really are looking very good going into the future. So we'll see. I have a lot of options on China. But if they don't do what we want, we have tremendous power.
So all he said, he was asked about China and the trade talks, and he just said, if they don't do what we want, we have options. And he was saying, if they don't do what we want on trade talks. He wasn't saying if they don't do what we want as far as investigating Hunter Biden. That's ridiculous to glean that. And I don't think anybody objectively looking at it would think that Trump said, in the context of the question about China and the trade talks, that he says we have options if they don't do what we want. Nobody looking at that objectively would say, oh, he means do what we want on Hunter Biden. That's what he meant by that. Nobody would say that. Obviously, he means do what we want as far as a trade deal that is fair. If they don't do what we want as far as a fair trade deal, we have options. We can put tariffs on them. We can do all kinds. And he said this stuff in the past.
Well, I think so. On Ukraine, the albeit not explicit, but the quid pro quo that people are focused on is, hey, I'm withholding military assistance. If you want more of it, then I need you to investigate Joe Biden.
That's not what he said. Definitely that was not on the transcript. He's talking about a prior conversation with Ukraine where Trump was withholding aid to Ukraine, but it was for the purpose of wanting the European nations to help out more. It wasn't for the purpose of strong-arming Ukraine. It's totally circumstantial. They're connecting all these dots. They have no proof of it.
It's exactly what we recognize. This is the third time in 4 years that the president has publicly has now asked for foreign interference.
Publicly lobbied, yes. He has asked 3 times.
You're exactly
now,
right.
Yes.
Russia in July of 2016.
Right.
Russia, if you're listening.
Russia 2016? He didn't do that. He was joking. He said, Russia, if you have the emails, release them. The 33,000 erased emails, deleted emails.
Be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens. That'll be next. Yes, sir.
So he was saying that in a joking way. Here he is earlier talking seriously.
I'm not going to tell Putin what to do. Why should I tell Putin what to do? He already did something today where he said, don't blame them essentially for your incompetence.
So he blatantly said, I'm not going to tell Russia what to do. So for one, he says, I'm not going to tell Russia what to do. And then in the other part, when he's joking around, you can tell he's being goofy. He says, Russia, release those emails. He's mocking the Hillary campaign because they tried to blame him for her emails getting hacked, which it wasn't hacked. It was leaked by Seth Rich. They tried to pin it on Russia, and then they tried to pin it on Trump. He's mocking them. So this whole thing was taken out of context. This was years ago. This was during the campaign. This was 3 years ago. They're taking what he said literally, but they're presenting it as he legitimately asked Russia to hack, to get the emails. He was trolling the media. He's trolling Hillary for falsely accusing him of being involved with Putin to get the emails. And he even says in that clip, he says, we don't even know if it's Russia.
And that's why, if it is Russia, nobody even knows. It's probably China. Or it could be somebody sitting in his bed.
It could be China or just some guy in their basement. We don't know. This is another stretch.
In trying to explain the sort of lack of political outrage from Republicans, I think one need only look further than the very different and divergent political fates and fortunes of Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake. Both men were senators when Donald Trump was elected. Lindsey Graham, back in 2016, famously tweeted, if Donald Trump is our nominee, we will be destroyed and we'll deserve it. After he was elected, Lindsey Graham became Donald Trump's best friend, right? His golfing partner. Jeff Flake was still an outspoken opponent of his. And at the end of the day, Jeff Flake decided that he could not win a Republican primary in Arizona without cozying up to Donald Trump. And that spelled the end of his career here in the Senate. Lindsey Graham today, his approval numbers in the Republican Party in South Carolina have never been higher. So not to be too fatalistic about it, but until that dynamic changes, we're not going to see anything different from Republican lawmakers on how they respond to President Trump.
So he's basically saying that Jeff Flake, he was an anti-Trumper, and due to that, he was very unpopular in Arizona, and he had to actually not even run for the race because he was polling so bad, so he got ousted. He's saying Lindsey Graham, on the other hand, has been very friendly towards Trump during Trump's presidency, not during the campaign, but during Trump's presidency at least. And so for that reason, Lindsey Graham is very popular. And he's saying that obviously if you are pro-Trump as a Republican, that's going to help your case with your constituents and you'll probably be voted back in. And opposing Trump, that's going to hurt you. So that's why people are not condemning Trump for this action. He's assuming that everybody agrees with Chuck Todd's report here. Everybody agrees that what Trump's doing is bad, but they're just not saying it because they think it's going to hurt them politically. That's what he's saying. He's reading the minds of hundreds of Republicans, of representatives and senators. He's reading all their minds, All those people know what Trump's doing is wrong. They're just not saying it because they think it's going to hurt them politically. That's what he's saying. Maybe those people understand, like I do, that this entire report is bogus. You're implementing double standards on the president. You're not condemning Obama. You're not condemning Hillary. You're not condemning the DNC. You're only condemning Trump for actively trying to enforce the law. Trump is trying to rein in corruption and get down to the bottom of the Russia hoax because they tried to frame him as a way to have an excuse to impeach him. So he's trying to get down to the bottom of that. So what's he supposed to do? If he's aware of Joe Biden's dirty dealings, he's supposed to say, nope, can't say anything because Joe Biden's running for president. I have to let that corruption slide. I have to let Joe Biden totally enrich his family at the expense of our country, selling influence. I have to let this corruption ride. That's what he's supposed to do. And this guy wants to present it as, oh, everybody agrees. Everybody agrees what Trump's doing is wrong. They're just not saying it for politics reasons. He's mind reading. Nobody could possibly think differently than us because he's so much in his bubble. But everything they've presented, complete garbage. The double standard, saying the Biden case has been debunked when it hasn't been debunked. Saying Trump called on Russia to release the emails when he was joking. Trying to present Joe Biden as above the law and you can't investigate somebody running for office, which is not true. So this whole thing was an entirely fake news story. This was bad. And what, by the way, what he said about Lindsey Graham wasn't even true. Lindsey Graham, just recently for the Syria pullout, Lindsey Graham said, I don't agree with the president on the Syrian pullout. So that's not even true. Lindsey Graham definitely is willing to disagree with the president if he thinks the president's wrong. So that was just completely false analysis by this guy. Terrible analysis. And that's one thing about fake news. I find that it's not always just corruption. I think a lot of it is corruption, but I think part of it is just really bad analysis and poor critical thinking.
Right. This is not a faction of the Republican Party right now. It is the Republican Party as it's currently constructed with the leadership and the members that it has.
So dramatic. So dramatic. This is why I don't watch these guys. I don't need to watch these fake news broadcasters. Why would I need to watch them? Look how many falsehoods they presented. And people are catching on to the news. People are catching on to how fake it is. But when people like Chuck Todd and so many people on mainstream media represent as if they're objective journalists, and they're not, as you can see, this is like the most partisan thing I've seen in a long time. A lot of people, I mean, in these comments section would look at that and just say, oh yeah, that was down the middle. That was objective. That was a centrist person just saying the truth. And that's what a lot of people here would probably say. But let's go through some of these comments. Okay, I'll go through the popular ones, I guess. 107, if you're listening, I'll have the orange chicken with lots of collusion sauce. Okay, I guess orange chicken for Trump, and she's saying Trump is colluding. Okay, well, what about Democrats colluding? I could respond, but I think I might put my video responding to these comments. That might be a better option. Don't forget Italy, Australia, and Boris. Well, yeah, they asked Italy and Australia to help too. Nothing wrong with that. They're trying to get down to the roots of the Russian hoax. Remove law and order from the Constitution. There's no White House, no democracy, no nations. Trump is effectively telling people they don't need to abide by law if they don't agree with the law. What are you talking about? He didn't break any law. Biden broke the law. You're saying that if you think Trump shouldn't investigate Biden. So sad he's reduced to begging. Who's reduced to begging? Trump? He's asking them to help investigate. You're begging with that comment. Anyone remember when the biggest scandal was when President Obama wore a tan suit? Well, I can tell you're a fake news watcher. There was plenty of scandals when Obama was president. I mean, the Russia hoax probably lands at his doorstep, for one. What about the tax scandal, the IRS scandal, when they used the IRS to go after political opponents? What about that collusion, Chuck Todd? Obama's IRS went after conservatives and put them through all this investigation to stop their activism for the 2012 election, which very well could have swung the 2012 election in Obama's favor. What about that? You didn't care about that. All right, let's go. So you didn't care. I mean, this person thinks there was no scandals under Obama. You had Bo Bergdahl. We traded Bo Bergdahl for 5 high-level terrorists. You had Iran, where you just gave Iran $150 billion. I know a lot of it was, they say it was technically a payback of their own money, but you still don't do it under very suspicious circumstances. Obama and Iran gave a lot of that money to terrorists. So that was a scandal. We got basically nothing back from it. You had the Fast and Furious scandal, gun running to Mexico, and then they used the guns to kill a Border Patrol agent. You had Benghazi. We still don't know what happened there. Who gave the stand-down order? They tried to blame it on an internet video, and then they got caught lying about it. No, there's no scandals there. Okay. Well, that's clever. If 1 means normal and 10 means totally insane, this is where Trump is on the scale. Oh, he's 86. Haha. Toxic Trump tube. There's a lot of TDS in this room. Yeah. Well, it's all fake news driven. I mean, you end the fake news, you end this TDS. It's all fake news driven. You saw the misinformation in this video. That's a solid point about Flake and Graham. What are you talking about? That was completely wrong. The crazy train officials flew off the rails today. Well, when people will call you names or call other people names based on nothing or based on bad logic, they're almost always telling you what their own issues are. Almost every time. And I've found that when I start to talk to people on my page, on my Facebook page, and I'll talk to people in the comment section, and then it'll become clear, wow, this person is exactly everything they just accused me of falsely. But anyway, keep going. After bashing the Chinese for years, now he wants their help. Amazing. Oh, whatever, dude. You can't, I mean, you correctly criticize them and then you ask them to invest. I mean, what a ridiculous comment. I mean, they're just looking for something, looking for the appearance of a contradiction. Meanwhile, this video is full of contradictions and he's just like blind to it. So I may be impeached for soliciting foreign influence and interference in election and was previously in trouble for the same thing. And since I am a stable genius, the chosen one and the greatest president ever, I'll just do it again. One of the definitions of insanity, doing the same thing over and expecting different results. See, this person's identifying their own insanity because there's nothing wrong with soliciting foreign governments to investigate crimes. There's nothing wrong with that. And Democrats did it. But he probably believed Russia too, and now he's believing in Ukraine too. So he's doing the same thing over and over again. And he's probably a little bit off mentally. I mean, if I talk to him, I'd probably find that pretty quick. If Republicans do nothing, they're unpatriotic criminals as well. The comments here. I mean, I can't be too mad at them. They're just a product of the fake news. There's nothing criminal about what Trump did. It's actually Ukraine and the United States have a partnership that was signed into law by Joe Biden in 1998. They would work together to fight crime. So this is very much legal. There's nothing illegal about it. Let's keep going. Going off the rails on another person calling somebody else crazy. That's a clue. Who said this quote? This is basic stuff. Foreign donors and certainly foreign governments cannot participate in American political process. Well, they're not really participating in the process. I mean, they're investigating crimes. And nobody is above the law. Just because you are running for public office does not mean you have a license to commit crime. If you want to talk about foreign governments, you didn't say anything about those Democrats I mentioned. That's weird. He probably doesn't know about it. Even if he did, he probably, I found the Democrats normally don't care. But is deep state coup deja vu all over again? Yeah, I agree with that. That's what the deep state's trying to do. They're trying to frame him for something. But they totally got busted on this one when he released the transcript. Totally got busted on that one. If it were me, it is you. Well, I don't know what that means. Attack him relentlessly until he melts into a babbling puddle of tears and vomit. No, that's very nice. I love how Democrats are always saying to keep it civil, and they just say gross things like this. When the Steele dossier was first heard of the public, first heard of by the public, we were told that the investigation was started by a Republican. It was Lindsey Graham, and once Trump got the nomination, he stopped funding it. Well, that's not true. It was started by Republicans with a different focus on it, but then the DNC and the Clintons took over the focus and made it all about made it a different focus. So you can't blame that on Republicans. That's just bad. This person just has bad information. We know this because when the Steele dossier was finished, he was given a copy of it because he had paid half the cost for it. Well, that's not true. I don't know if he had a copy of it or not. Graham then showed, but I'm confident he didn't pay half the cost of it. That's ridiculous. I never even heard of saying Graham was behind it. Graham then showed it to McCain and told him to take it to the FBI, and McCain did. No, it wasn't. I believe it was Brennan to McCain, not Graham to McCain. I never heard anybody say that. I have heard Brennan. Now Graham was golfing with Trump. And even if it was, who cares? Even if it was Graham, who cares? This shows you the guy will stop at nothing to be in charge of the great country we live in, not unkind of him, not unkind of him, I think they meant. But he will stop at nothing to be dictator of America that he wants to be. He's investigating corruption. He's framed for 2 years. He's trying to get to the bottom of the corruption. Sorry for defending myself against a frame job that could have ended my presidency, ruined my life, put me in jail potentially. Sorry for fighting back against that. My bad. This news is weird. Who would investigate a crime? Yeah, that's a good one. Senate Republicans should have staged an intervention a long time ago. For what? This guy's a hoot. He's more fun than Don Lemon. He needs to take a break, or I don't know who he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about Chuck Todd, but what about the Biden meme, though? I don't know what that means. How Americans tolerate Donald Trump's voice and speech, highly unpleasant person. When I listen to him, I just want to take the axe and smash that pumpkin. This is the root of, I think, most of the criticism against Trump. They don't like his attitude and demeanor. And I would say to that, like, grow up. I mean, we had 3.5% unemployment the other day. Record low unemployment. And so you're saying that I don't care that millions of Americans have jobs and can feed their family and can be a success in their life. I don't care about that. What I care about is I don't like the president's voice. I don't like his attitude. That's what I care about. Screw all these millions of people that are feeding their families. I personally don't like the president's personality. That's what's important to me. This is a very sociopath statement to make. I mean, this isn't American Idol, where you just vote on who you like the best. That's fine, because that has no consequence for anybody in the world. But president has consequence for everybody in America and in the world. So if you're basing it on personality, that's just silly. It could be the person I hated the most in the world. And I found their personality to be disgusting. But if they're going to do the best job as president, that's who I choose. If you're burning in a building, do you choose the person with the most pleasant voice and the best personality, the most charming person to save you? Or do you choose the person who is going to be the most effective at saving you? Even if they have a terrible personality, you're going to choose the person who is most skilled at helping you, because that's important. Personality in that situation is not important. It's not important that Trump... by the way, I love his voice and his speech, and I don't think he's unpleasant at all. I think he's just saying the truth. He probably, for this person, for people that have the same opinion, say the same thing, it's probably just because Trump says the truth in a very blunt manner, and they're so used to fake news from people like Chuck Todd that'll sugarcoat everything and never tell you any hard truth, never tell you any unpleasant truth, which is probably what she really means. You need to hear the hard truth sometime. Anyway, the Giuliani tactics will not work this time. They are in over their heads. Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, there's really nothing Democrats have here. Just a lot of smoke and mirrors. I want to say even less than Russia, but Russia was actually nothing. So I don't know how he can be less than nothing. He's trying to discredit the whistleblower. He proclaims himself, I'm the beautiful whistleblower. That's kind of funny. I mean, the whistleblower already got discredited by the transcript getting released. Why is it that Trump can't shut his mouth? Every time he opens it, he puts his foot in his mouth. He didn't say anything wrong here. You just think he did because Chuck Todd told you he did. There's nothing wrong about asking foreign governments to help you with criminal investigations. And you don't think there is either because Obama and Democrats were doing that too. And Chuck Todd doesn't think there is either. See, the reason you think it's wrong is Chuck Todd told you it's wrong. Chuck Todd didn't tell you Obama and the Democrats doing it in 2016 and beyond were wrong. He didn't tell you that, so that's the reason you don't think it's wrong. You're basing everything you think based on what the people on the square box or the rectangle box in your living room or on your computer tell you. You're not thinking for yourself. You're not thinking critically. I just encourage you, just think critically. I mean, George Carlin was a critical thinker. That's your icon here. So why don't you follow in that footsteps? Did I hear that? Here, H-E-A-R. Did I hear that right? You ask. He's struggling here. He asked him what the president believes. How would he know? I can't even make sense of that. Let's investigate everyone but Trump. He's investigating. What are you talking about? He's investigated more than anybody. What they skirting over? There doesn't need a quid pro quo. Just asking them to investigate is an impeachable offense. Well, you think Obama should have been investigated too? So this is probably another person like George Carlin over here. He just believes whatever the media tells him this is an impeachable offense. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Therefore, he believes it's an impeachable offense. Media didn't tell him Democrats doing it was an impeachable offense. Therefore, he didn't think it was an impeachable offense. It's called agree and amplify. I don't know what that means. It's un-American to have another country mingle in our election. Talk to Democrats about that. Make the madness stop. Impeach. Well, another person just like Sean Shimamoto. Is that his real name? He looks like a colossal imbecile 200 years ago. He'd have been condemned as much. No way. He'd be celebrated for sure. No one but vagabonds would associate with he said meant with such a low life character. 200 years ago, he would have been definitely celebrated. I mean, the founding fathers were very much about truth. If you want to laugh, go look at John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. When they ran against each other for president, they were saying some of the nastiest insults you ever heard. Thomas Jefferson calling John Adams a hermaphrodite and lots of other really extreme things. And colossal imbecile. Okay, are you a pink and black girl? Are you a multi-billionaire? Did you win the presidency? Okay, well, you're less than a colossal imbecile then. You're worse than a colossal imbecile then. This is from Mighty Anti-Globalist. This is from the Mighty Anti-Globalist. Oh my. Well, he is an anti-globalist. What's wrong with that? This is a lot of fun. These guys are breathlessly reporting nothing. That's a good comment. I want to double like it. Trump is getting desperate and will burn the... I want to screenshot it. I'm going to screenshot that. Rob Wells, you get comment of the day. Trump is getting desperate and will burn the economy and country down for his own fabulous... Trump is getting desperate and will burn the economy and country down. How's the economy being burned down? It's very much succeeding and thriving. For himself? Why would that benefit him if the economy went down? This doesn't make any sense. Our Trudeau is a pervert himself, so we are in the same boat. Trudeau just got... There's allegations that Trudeau slept with a 17-year-old when he was a teacher. If that becomes true and that comes out, he might be ousted, but I don't know what that has to do with Trump in office. Anyway, while threatening another country unless he gets political favors, he didn't do that. Chuck Todd made that up. See, this is what happens. Chuck Todd made that up. He did not threaten them. Totally made up by Chuck Todd, and now this person thinks it's real. And he's going to maybe repeat it to other people. And this is how fake news spreads. Committing a crime before our very eyes. Well, that's what Chuck Todd told you to think. It's not a crime. Literally not a crime. Literally, it's what our two countries agreed to. He's done this before with Russia. No, he didn't do it with Russia. You don't even know that by now? No, this is done before when they framed him for Russia. Now they're trying to frame him with Ukraine. So never mind the trade war. Now investigate Biden. No, not never mind the trade war. We're still doing that. It's not one or the other. Now investigate Biden. Way to deflect, Donnie. What will your next deal? Investigate the Bidens and you will let China win the trade war? See, she did it too. Chuck Todd said it. He's quid pro quoing with China, and she's just repeating it. Definitely didn't say that in that interview. He didn't say anything close to that in that press conference. When I was younger, I watched Meet the Press. Today we have Chuck Todd. How far? Yeah, that's absolutely true. I wanna screenshot that too. So I think I'm about done. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.